Hi, everybody. My name is Tam Huynh from the Washington State Department of Labor Industries. And along with me, I have Kristen Goodge. I am an industrial relations agent too, out of the Tukwila office. My main responsibilities as an industrial relations agent is to um, receive complaints and work on complaints from the public workers in Washington, and to see whether or not they're owed wages and if their employers are violating any of the labor laws that are set forth. It's a quick synopsis of what we'll be overviewing. This presentation applies to any employer in the state of Washington hiring anybody over or under the age of 18. Also applies to any parents that are interested in hiring their own children or family members to work in their business. I'd like to talk a little bit about overtime. Overtime is when a employee works more than 40 hours per 7-day work week. For example, if an employee works 45 hours a week, they as an employer, you would pay them 40 hours regular time and then 5 hours overtime. Overtime is 1.5 times the regular rate that you agreed to pay them. So for example, if the regular rate for this employee is $20 an hour, the overtime rate will be 30. Overtime must be paid regardless of your size of employment, regardless of how many employees you have. And it depends on who's eligible for a overtime. Typically, a employee that is hourly, that doesn't have any managerial duties, is eligible for overtime. People that are exempt from overtime is considered exempt from executive, administrative, and professional definitions, such as lawyers, nurses, doctors, and so forth. If you are a family business, there's a couple things that you need to remember when hiring a family member. You do like to treat them as employees with the same right as any other paid worker that you have. You must pay them at least a minimum wage, provide workers' compensation, give them rest and meal breaks, and make sure the work environment is safe. If you're hiring minors, be sure to follow the state child labor laws and the appropriate work and duties of the age. I'd like to move on to paid sick leave. In the state of Washington, as an employer, you must provide and offer paid sick leave to the employees. We ask that you have a written policy if you don't already have one, but need to at least meet the minimum requirements of the state. So the requirements is to provide 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 40 hours worked. This includes full-time, part-time, and any seasonal positions. For example, if an employee works 80 hours for one pay period, you would pay them 2 hours, they would earn 2 hours of paid sick leave. Paid sick leave must be paid at the normal rate for hourly employees. So if you're paying them $20 an hour regularly, their paid sick leave hourly would also be $20 per hour. So the authorized use of paid sick leave could be used for anything from personal injury to a care of a family member, doctors or dentist visits, preventative care, workplace or your child's school being closed for the day, with any health issues from the public, domestic violence cases. So if a employee uses paid sick leave, you must pay the paid sick leave out on the regular date of pay. So the regular timeline for what you would regularly pay them. And any time taken more than 3 days, you can ask for verification from the employee, but must have a written policy in place if you exercise this right to ask for verification. Currently, the state minimum wage in Washington, there's three distinctive minimum wages in the state of Washington. Outside of the city of Seattle, um, the and the city of SeaTac, the Washington state minimum wage is $14.49. If you're conducting business within the city of Seattle, it would be $17.47. And likewise, if you're conducting business in the city limits of SeaTac, the minimum wage would be $17.54. I'd like to hand it over to Kristen. She's the expert in the child labor laws. So Kristen.
Thank you. So prior to hiring any minor employees, an employer should get a minor work permit. This is an endorsement on your business license. You apply for this through the Department of Revenue's Business Licensing Services. And this is an endorsement that should be renewed annually. Next, you would need to keep on file a parent school authorization form, fully completed with signatures from the minor's parent and school representative. This form expires on September 30th of every year. So if you have the same employee working year after year, you should get this renewed. In the summer months, there is a form called the Parent Authorization for Summer Work Form. This form doesn't have the school representative signature on it, and it's only used during the summer months. You should also keep on file proof of age for each minor employee. And acceptable documents include a birth certificate, driver's license, passport, baptismal record, or a notarized statement from the parent or legal guardian. For pay requirements, employers must pay teen workers at least the minimum wage for every hour worked, so the $14.49 per hour. Workers under the age of 16 may be paid 85% of the minimum wage. Minors also have the following rights under the Minimum Wage Act of overtime for hours worked over 40 hours per work week, tips and service charges, paid sick leave, and protection from retaliation for exercising any above rights. There are some hours of work limitations for minor employees, and it depends on which age group they fall under. So anyone under the age of 16, so generally the 14 to 15-year-olds, during school weeks, they can work 3 hours per day, Monday through Friday. They can work 8 hours Saturday and Sunday. They can work a total of 16 hours per week. They can work 6 days per week, and they have a start time of 7 a.m. and an end time of 7 p.m. During non-school weeks, they can work 8 hours per day for a maximum of 40 hours per week. They can again work 6 days per week, and they have a start time of 7 a.m. and an end time of 7 p.m. And federal law gives an exemption from June 1st to Labor Day where they can work till 9 p.m. And then for the 16 to 17-year-olds during school weeks, they can work 4 hours per day, Monday through Thursday. They can work 8 hours Friday through Sunday. They can work up to 20 hours per week, again, 6 days per week, with a start time of 7 a.m. and an end time of 10 p.m. And then for the minors age 16 to 17, they have an extended end time Friday through Saturday nights until midnight. On the bottom of the parent school authorization form is a section for a special variance. This requires signatures from the parent and the school. But if that's signed, those minors can work an additional 2 hours per day. So they can work 6 hours Monday through Thursday, 8 hours again, Friday through Sunday, for up to 28 hours per week. Again, 6 days per week, same start and end time, 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., extended to midnight Friday through Saturday. And then non-school weeks, so summer breaks, winter vacations, things like that. The minors age 16, 17 can work 8 hours per day, up to 48 hours per week, 6 days, and they have a start time of 5 a.m. and an end time of midnight. There is an exemption for minors age 16 to 17 if they are enrolled in Running Start, if they are married, if they're a parent, or if they have their high school diploma or GED, they can work the non-school week hours of work. So they can work the 8 hours per day up to 48 hours per week. We just ask that you keep some sort of documentation of the exemption on file. Meal and rest breaks for 16 and 17-year-olds. For meal periods, they're entitled to a 30-minute meal period when working more than 5 consecutive hours. It's not required to be paid. There is a timing requirement, so the meal period should occur between their 2nd and their 5th hour of shift. Rest periods, 16 to 17-year-olds are entitled to a 10-minute rest period for every 4 hours worked. It must be paid by the employer to the employee, and they should be given their rest period at least by the end of their 3rd hour, basically in the middle of their shift. An important note is minors age 16 and 17 and below cannot waive their rights to meal and rest periods, so they must receive them. Meal and rest breaks for minors under the age of 16. They're entitled to a 30-minute uninterrupted meal period when working shifts longer than 4 hours. It's also not required to be paid, and it must be separate from and in addition to rest breaks. For rest periods, they're entitled to at least a 10-minute rest period for every 2 hours worked, should be paid by the employer to the employee. And then for minors in this age group, they can't work more than 2 hours without either receiving a 10-minute rest period or receiving a 30-minute meal period. There also are some prohibitions for job duties. Minors are prohibited from working in certain jobs that are considered hazardous for their age group. Some examples for all minors, so anyone under the age of 18 include but are not limited to operating powered meat slicers, using powered bakery equipment such as a Hobart mixer, working in service occupations alone past 8 p.m. without adult supervision, exposure to hazardous substances considered to be carcinogenic, corrosive, or highly toxic. Some examples for minors under the age of 16 include but are not limited to cooking and baking, working in close proximity to any power-driven machinery. Minors under the age of 16 are also not allowed to work on a construction site, but office work is allowed. And if you have any questions regarding anything with child labor, please feel free to reach out to me. My phone number and my email is on there. We also have a general email mailbox where you could send questions as well.
Yeah, likewise, if you have any labor related questions, especially for employees or employers, I could be a good resource. My information is also listed and my phone number as well.
Thank you, guys.